Take the can a little, Ray. Don't be a punk.
Give me the can.
With nothing better to do but find trouble in the burning down South Bronx of the 1970s, it's a mystery when one of the most powerful owners in all of sports collides with 17-year-old graffiti-bound Ray Negron. And he gave Ray a second chance by making him the New York Yankees bat boy. And from that moment on, Ray's story of redemption changes his life forever.
I don't really care. Isn't that funny? I don't really care whether they like me. I'd like them to respect me.
So because of that incident, like me seeing the killing, Bronx Tale, Ray getting arrested when he was 17 doing graffiti, your life could change like that.
Please join us for an hour of Flashback Sports,
where we look back to the sports of the 70s through today and relive the good,
the bad,
You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
the ugly,
the really ugly,
the cool,
the Joe Cool,
the characters,
the many, many what were they thinking moments,
and what made the 70s the 70s.
the events,
Down goes Frazier!
the rivalries,
Wanting to go at each other now, huh?
and of course, the fights.
Well, welcome to Flashback Sports with Gil and Dave. Happy and prosperous New Year to all our listeners. Before we get into our great we have a great guest today, Ray Negron, who's been with the Yankees for 50 years. I just want to mention two sad things. I had two friends pass away the past week. Lieutenant Sergeant Chris Marek, who passed away, and a mentor to me, a State Farm agent, Ralph Marchienti. So rest in peace. Our prayers and thoughts are with them and their family. But Ray Negron, how could I start? I mean, he has unbelievable. You're going to love talking to him, Dave. His story is unbelievable. You know, how he started with the Yankees. And, as I can say, Dave, I'm really looking forward to this interview. And no current events. We don't want to talk about the Jets, the Giants. We'll talk about the Rangers later on. But there's nothing going on right now, Dave. Right? So, take it away,
exactly.
Please.
I'm actually looking forward to this a lot because I was actually thinking that you can probably count on, a couple of hands how many people have spent 50 years with one organization, much less the Yankees. And maybe even Ray knows that number, other than the Steinbrenner family themselves. Pete Sheehy, legendary clubhouse guy, Phil Rizzuto. There's not that many people that kind of come to mind that spent that many years and probably saw as many things. I mean, even the Steinbrenners weren't in the clubhouse, weren't in the dugout during the 70s and 80s and so forth. Some of the, not only the greatest games, but some of the great characters in Yankee history. So I'm anxious to get this going. We're dedicating as long as Ray wants to spend with us. We're not, no Jet talks, no Giant talk. Right now, we want to hear kind of the life and times of Ray Negron. So any other comments, Gil? Otherwise, we'll bring him on. So
yeah, I mean, honestly, he's been honored at the UN twice. He's in the New York State Baseball Hall of Fame, Hispanic Hall of Fame. He's producer of films. He's a well-renowned author. I mean, he's done it all. He's been in 9 films. He's now doing his documentary. He's had a great play. He's done a play in his life called Bat Boy. So it's no introduction. He's done the first animated baseball movie. So right. I'm looking forward. So let's bring on Ray and get going with our interview with him. I'm looking forward to speaking with him. Hello, Ray. How are you?
Hey, Ray.
Gil and Dave, it's nice to be on your show. Hearing a lot about it, and man, you guys are making some noise. I like it.
I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for the. Hey, Ray. We can go through, with the life. It's amazing how you started, with the graffiti and then going with the Yankees. But you've talked to us in the past about your relationship with both Billy Martin and George Steinbrenner, and how you said they were both kind of like father figures. Could you go into that, the relationship between you and Billy and you and George?
George Steinbrenner, well, look, man got me out of the streets, gave me a job, looked out for me for many years. And Billy Martin was a man who, at that time, remember something, my father gave me up for adoption. There were 7 boys in my house. It was crazy in my house. And the aspect that my father wasn't there was something that me and Billy had in common. Okay. Our mothers, both their names were Jenny.
Wow.
Both were little. Both were tough. Both didn't take no crap from nobody. Okay. And that's something that we had in common. Because of Billy Martin, I actually fought in the Golden Gloves in New York back in 1975, 76. Okay. He taught me how to fight. Billy was the only one that inside the Yankee Stadium locker room area, he had a speed bag. He taught me how to throw a punch. Was he a father figure to me? Absolutely. Did I adore him? Forget about it. Like nobody's business. And he, and no matter what, like he knew how close I was to to Reggie. He didn't let that get in the way of our relationship. Okay, so that's all I got to say about him right now. You can ask me some questions whenever.
Yeah. Well, you know what? If we're going to go into that, let's, Jack, let's play video 2. And since Ray was there, he can give us a perspective of what happened and afterwards. So play number 2 for Ray.
Oh, look at this. Look at Billy. Is he hot? Reggie has done that on several balls hit to right field. Look, Elston getting between. He wants to make sure there are no blows struck down there. Billy is really upset.
That may be the first time I've ever seen that happen in a dugout. With a manager and a player. Billy wants to get at Reggie. He's being restrained by, that's in full view of the crowd, being restrained by Yogi Berra and Elston Howard. Elston Howard has his lamb. Billy gets around, but now Yogi's got him and trying to wrestle him down.
Yogi's got him.
Yogi's got him, and who's that on the bench? That's Bobby Cox, I believe. No, that was Dick Hauser had him from behind, and Yogi has him in front. And in full view of the Boston crowd on the right side. And certainly, as you can see, in full view of our cameras, and we would presume the Game of the Week cameras as well.
Okay, Ray, I know you were in the dugout there, so if you could explain in your words what happened and then also the aftermath after that incident.
Jim Rice is the hitter. Jimmy Rice, it's a fly ball to right field. As this is happening, I'm sitting. At that moment, I was sitting right next to Billy. Ball drops in right field. And Billy dropped. When the ball fell, he felt that Reggie Jackson was not hustling after the ball. And the first thing out of his mouth was, "That mother effer." And when he said that, I said, oh, my God, my heart skipped a beat. And I got up and I ran. I didn't walk. I ran to the other side of the dugout because I knew all hell was going to break loose. And then he screams out, "Blair, right field." I said, oh, my God. Wow. And everybody was saying, oh, my God. And then he went out to the mound. The whole, what do you call it, happened. He came back. And then when Reggie was coming in and he starts to take off his glasses, I said, oh, God, now you know. And by Reggie taking his glasses off, that was, hey, Billy's he's a street guy. He's a gangster. He's a cowboy. And hey, you know what? It's on. Let's go.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure who wins that. I'm not sure. Anger overcomes size at that point.
Here's the thing. I ran to the other side. Now, if you notice, the only angle shot that you get is center field. It's the only angle that you get, because I ran to the other side and I felt I had to do something. I took a towel and I wrapped it around the NBC camera that was in the dugout to the right, or rather to my left. And I held on to it like this. I wouldn't let the guy shoot inside the dugout.
Right.
Okay, Gil, you should have had that picture because I sent it to you guys.
Yeah, we
But
have it.
so what happened at that point, everything, I mean, I can't even go into all the stuff that was being said. The one thing that got Billy crazy was when Reggie called him an old man. Like, you're gonna take me on, old man.
Mm-hmm.
And Billy said, who are you calling an old man? And he wanted to, at that point, he wanted to show Reggie who the old man was, and he wanted to give him a beating. Okay, no matter what. And Dave says he doesn't know who wins that fight. And I'm only gonna say Billy took on some very big hombres throughout the years.
Right.
Play, okay, when he was in Detroit and when he was in Minnesota. So I'm not going to bet against Billy with nobody. Okay.
Yeah, in that moment, I agree. Yeah.
And when Billy is off like that, you could have put in Bruno Sammartino in there, and he was going to whip his ass. Okay, and that's all I got to say about that. Now, here's the situation. What was really hard for me. Reggie was a big brother to me. Reggie was tremendous to me. Okay. He treated me like a little brother and did a lot of things for me, was doing a lot of things for me, helping me to grow up, as were all those guys. I had 25 brothers on that team. Okay. Thurman forget about it. He was the biggest brother I had on that team. And so anyway, Reggie took off early for the hotel, and I stayed at the ballpark. I waited for Billy. He changed all that stuff, dealt with the media, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. As he started to walk out, I walked out right behind him. Okay. And it was customary. Like, I would do stuff like that. And so I'm walking out like probably 2 feet behind them, but I was nervous as hell because, I didn't know, Billy, you don't know what you were going to get out of him. And so then all of a sudden he stops and he says to me, you and the big guy have gotten really close, huh? And that got me really nervous. And I said, Billy, do you want me not to be his friend? You know what I'm saying? I mean, at that point, I love Billy so much that if he said, I don't want you to be talking to that man, I would have not talked to him. That's how much I loved him. And he turned to me. He said, you and him are tight, et cetera, et cetera. And I said, do you want me not to be his friend? And he turned to me and he said, if I ever find out that you unfriend him because of my relationship or lack of relationship with that guy, then me and you can no longer be friends because I wouldn't be able to trust you. And then he said to me, he took 2 steps, stopped again, turned to me and said, you treat a man the way a man treats you. And even though I can't stand the son of a bitch, he's good to you. And then he takes 2 more steps, he stops, and then he turns and he grabs my shoulder. And he says, do you understand that even if you were Italian, I couldn't love you anymore than what I do? And that was the greatest compliment that any man has ever given me.
Wow, that's unbelievable.
Oh,
that's it. Hey, Ray, so I want to before we get too far down the path of kind of that era, and because this is 2 or 3 years in now, I mean, you're there before Billy's there, basically, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
And you're there during the kind of the really, I think it was the first year that Steinbrenner bought the family, that George Steinbrenner.
73.
Yeah, so you think about, and I love the comment that Chaz Palminteri had about your circumstances, how similar it was to his in terms of you having this moment that George Steinbrenner, of all people, in essence, catches you spraying graffiti outside Yankee Stadium, catches you, kind of it's kind of an analogy to like what he did, or it's similar to what happened with him, where he sees Sonny in the Bronx Tale, he sees a murder taking place, and from these two kind of crazy moments that could have went in completely different directions. Both of you guys have, in essence, your lives have been built around these moments because of, in the case of you, the generosity of George Steinbrenner, who was really not known at that time. He was just a new Yankee owner who bought a team from CBS. He gives you a second chance, and you make the most of it. But what I love about that, not only that moment, but I was reading, I remember reading your book talking about, I would like to talk a little bit about what it's like to be in this 18-year-old kid all of a sudden in the Yankee dugout, hanging out with Bobby Mercer and Thurman Munson and Lou Piniella and all these guys from that generation that kind of, before the kind of the championship years. What's that atmosphere like? What's it like for a 17, 18-year-old guy who is maybe a few months earlier, facing some serious situations?
Yeah.
Well, understand that as a little boy, I saw the movie The Pride of the Yankees. Gary Cooper, to me, was Lou Gehrig.
Mm-hmm.
He was beautiful, incredible, wonderful, and I wanted to be a Yankee because of that movie. And when you see the end of that film, you see Lou Gehrig has ALS, and he's walking to Yankee Stadium for supposedly the last time. And the young boy is out there saying, Mr. Gehrig, don't you remember me? You hit 2 home runs for me one day.
Yeah. Great scene.
And it was outside Yankee Stadium. And because of that, I used to go to Yankee Stadium and hang out outside just to see the players go in and go out. Many, many times, if I couldn't sneak into the park, then I didn't see the game. I just wanted to see the players. And so the blessing of God is that he put me there. That film put me there. And in turn, that day, June 29th of 1973, I was outside the park and somebody dared me to do a mark on the wall. I was no graffiti artist like people think I am. I was just a kid that was doing it because I was dared and I let peer pressure get to me. And so I did it. And all of a sudden, at that moment, a car is driving right on the sidewalk. 2 guys jump out. Everybody starts to run. I trip over one of the guy's foot. I go down. I'm caught. I'm put into a holding cell. As they're walking away, the 2 guys, one guy says to the other, that's where he belongs. There is nothing that you can do for these people. When he said that, the other guy all of a sudden stopped in his track, turned around and said to the cop that was holding, it was like a little precinct inside the stadium. And he said to the cop, open the gate, give me the kid. Open the gate, give me the kid. And at that point, he grabbed me like by the collar and they took me to where I didn't know where they were taking me. Next to knocking on this black door. And this little old man opens the door and they lead me inside. Next to they're getting me a uniform. And all of a sudden, I'm being told that I'm going to be the bat boy that night.
Wow.
Okay. And that was the revolution of it. That was the evolution of it. That was the start of it. And I was, the whole time I didn't know what really was going on. I was nervous, and all the first player to come over to me and say hello, just to break the ice for me, was Ron Bloomberg.
Wow.
He was eating bagels out of a bag. Me being a Puerto Rican, I didn't know what the hell a bagel even was, because we just seen a bagel. And he says, "Well, you want a bagel?" You know what I'm saying? And so that when the two guys leave, I'm told by Pete Sheehy that the man that caught me was the new owner of the Yankees, George Steinbrenner. Okay. Pete gave me all my instructions as to what he wanted me to do. Dick Hauser took me out for batting practice. Next thing you know, I'm in right field. The people that I had been with who had escaped were in the bleachers, wondering what the hell I was doing on the field. When the game was about to start, the great Bobby Mercer, who then was number one, calls me over and he says, "Hey kid, where they got you?" And I said, they told me to be the ball boy down the right field line. And he said, "Okay, take the stool, put it down there, and come back to me." So I went, took the stool, put it down the right field line where the ball boys were stationed. Then I came back. And then he says, "Our organist is going to start playing. Here come the Yankees. When that happens, run out with me, and you run down to your position, and I'll be out in center field." And that was my first day. That's how my first game started.
So, Ray, when you started your career, like you've been with the Yankees with Steinbrenner, you were in the old stadium, then you were at Shea Stadium, then the new stadium. I mean, you talk about a lot about the love of, like, say, Bobby Mercer, Thurman Munson. Talk about some of the things that you could tell us that some of our listeners will want to know. The men, I mean, we know they're great baseball players. We know that Bobby should have a plaque in Monument Park. We know that Thurman should be in the Hall of Fame. We know that Billy should be in the Hall of Fame. But tell some of our listeners some of the things, the relationship, your special relationship with Thurman and Bobby and anybody else, even Reggie.
Let me tell you, a lot of times I feel guilty when I post stuff like on Instagram, and then I see who's looking at the different posts that I put up, because I honor Thurman all the time. I honor Mercer. I honor Catfish. I mean, let me tell you about Catfish Hunter. Okay, we got him in 1975, and talk about a man with class, wonderful dignity, just a caring Southern boy. He was a Southerner. So in my mind, was this guy going to be a racist, etc.? You hear all the stories about the South and all that. And so, me being a straight New York kid, Bronx boy, all that, I don't know. But we were in spring training one year, okay? We were in spring training, and everybody usually sits on the same spot in the bus. You remember, in spring training, you're busing to the different towns. So this one day, we had finished playing the Mets. The Mets whipped our asses. So we wanted to hurry the hell up before Steinbrenner got to the clubhouse and started screaming at us, right? So we had to hurry it up. Our traveling secretary, Bill King, was saying, "Hurry up, we got to go. And we did. And then I was like the last one on the bus. So no one really saw whoever. I was one of the first ones on the bus that day out because everything was already packed. And I got on the bus. And so I wasn't in my regular seat. So we take off, and about 5 miles down the highway, all of a sudden, Catfish Hunter starts screaming, "Stop the bus! Stop the effing bus!" And the bus driver swerves, And it was like, you hear the whole squeaking of the wheels, pulls over, and then everybody's saying, "What happened? What happened, Cat? What's going on?" And Catfish screams out, "Ray Negron. We forgot Ray Negron."
Wow.
Okay. And I go, "Catfish, I'm back here." And he goes, "Oh, okay, let's go." And Cliff Johnson screams out, "You stopped the bus for that mother effer?"
That's great.
So, right. You know the difference, like Dave, when you talked to me about the camaraderie that you had, like you guys went to eat together. Compare that to today's modern Yankees. Do you see a big difference? Like, how can you compare? Would you consider that a family compared to today?
Look.
Yeah.
I've been in baseball over 50 years, okay? And did you ever see the movie Goodfellas?
Yeah, we've seen the movie. Yeah.
Okay.
20, 30 times.
Okay, and remember when Ray Liotta says it was a glorious time. Okay, and whenever I see that, it reminds me of the 70s and the Yankees and those guys. It was a glorious time.
Well,
Okay.
you know what, Ray? You've talked about this glorious time. Let's play number 6 and 7 back to back for Ray to relive some of those great times, which great teams and great moments.
Mark Littell delivers high drive, hits it right center field.
That's gone.
It is gone.
Chris Chambliss has won the American League pennant for the New York Yankees. A thrilling, dramatic game with overtones of that great 6th game in the World Series a year ago, and then the 7th game too. What a way for the American League season to end. A spunky young Kansas City team. Look at them mob Chris Chambliss. What a season he has had. What a series he has had.
Ground ball to third. Nettles to Randolph. Double play, and the Yankees have won the pennant. Look at Lyle.
Now, wait a minute. Don't hurt anybody out there. They've got to play Tuesday. Look at them. They're so happy.
Just completely mobbing Sparky Lyle, who has come on to win his 2nd game in a row. He was the winner yesterday.
And Ray, when we talk about those teams, I mean, in 76, I was a Yankee fan. I was 12. I love that team, 76, 77, 78, especially 76, because when they first got into that, that Chambliss, you talked about Sparky Lyle and those guys. Tell us a little bit about, you always told me that, compared to one of the most, what you say, like not famous relievers, but most important relievers in Yankee history was Sparky Lyle.
Look, let me put it to you like this. Yes, Mariano is the all-time greatest relief pitcher, short man. Okay, yes, okay. The most important relief pitcher during the Steinbrenner era is Albert Sparky Lyle. Okay,
Great.
Albert Sparky Lyle. Okay, number one. In 1976, we win the pennant. Okay, great. But we weren't world champions. In 77, Sparky took it upon himself. I mean, he pitched 2 days in a row, and he gave us multiple innings in each of those games. And he gave us in the deciding game, he pitched 4 2/3 innings. Okay, he left his arm on that field. Okay. But that was the only guy that Billy could really trust in that situation. And Sparky said to Billy, "I got this. I'll take care of this. Don't worry about it. Just leave me out there. Don't worry. Leave me out there." And he did. I mean, if he doesn't do that, there's no Reggie Jackson 3 home run game. Okay. Yeah. It would have been a whole different situation. That's just the way God works in these situations. And let me tell you this. 1976, we had a pitcher on the team named Grant Jackson, and Billy Martin had a lot of faith in Grant Jackson. He came in today; he would be known as the setup guy. You know what I'm saying? And so he went in there, and he was supposed to hold the Kansas City, and George Brett hits the 3-run homer to tie that game up. All right. And Grant Jackson literally wanted to kill himself. He went into the clubhouse. He was tearing everything up. He thought that we were not going to win that game. He started to cry frantically. I mean, he was crying like a child, and it was like Billy said, go after him. And I sat with Grant Jackson, and whatever came to my head, I just said. Whatever I had to say, I said, trying to calm him down. And Chris was leading off the 9th, and I said to Grant, Chris will take care of this. Don't worry. We're going to be all right. We're going to be all right. And what happens on the next pitch? Home run. And Grant was okay. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy.
That's a great point. Those years kind of, as I say, those years what you're mentioning, and if you have a chance, Ray's got a book, Yankee Miracles. You can see it here. It's a must read for any baseball fan. But one thing I would say, the two things I would say, Ray, that need to be mentioned. One is all these things that you're mentioning now, as Gil and I can attest to, and this show is about a lot of time spent in the 70s. And this is the time we grew up, but it really it's nice to know that all these guys you're talking about now are validating everything Gil and I and a lot of other people thought about. Bobby Mercer, Reggie Jackson, Thurman Munson, Ron Bloomberg, Sparky Lyle. These are the guys who were our heroes kind of growing up. Catfish Hunter, all the guys we had a certain perception of. What do we know, right? We're not there. So it's great to hear you validating exactly what we thought for all those guys.
With everything that you guys say, why is it that Roy White is never mentioned?
Yeah. The quiet man. Okay? Yeah, absolutely.
Roy White was the most underrated player, not in Yankee history, in baseball history. Because this guy, he could run, he could hit with power. Defensively, maybe the greatest left fielder in Yankee history. I mean, you guys are all going to say Dave Winfield, but Dave Winfield wasn't a world champion for the Yankees.
Yeah.
To be great and immortalized, you got to be a world champion. All right.
That's true. Roy White, Nettles, all these guys. I always feel, Ray, that the Yankees, they kind of lose. They don't really honor those guys as much as I think they should. And I don't know why, because they honor all the people that won in the 90s. But those guys in the early 70s, tough like Sparky Lyle. He won a Cy Young. He pitched. I mean, Billy was a great man. He put him in the 4th inning, and he pitched. He got Brett out, and he pitched 5, and then he pitched the next day. I mean, these guys had heart and soul, and Nettles, and we just love that team.
Gil, unfortunately, and I'm going to answer that question: why aren't the Bobby Mercers and the Roy Whites and guys like Sparky Lyle? Why aren't they in Monument Park and things to that effect? And the problem is that a lot of the people that run baseball or the Yankees, they weren't there at that time, so they don't understand the magnitude of their greatness. Okay, because there's no one that worked for the Yankees then that's there now. Nobody. There's nobody. I mean, I'm like I don't know what you would call a guy like me who was there at that time and who can appreciate their greatness. But I'm also in a different position because remember, I was in the clubhouse. Okay. And like Willie Randolph always asks me, Ray, how do you remember everything? And I always say, Willie, remember one thing. I didn't play. You did. So every time I walked into that locker room, I strapped in because I was getting ready to watch the greatest show on earth. You understand? And I was like a sponge watching. Remember, like I said, everybody in that clubhouse that had substance within the team, they were my brothers. Cliff Johnson was my brother. Okay, Cliff Johnson was a utility guy then. And I can honestly say to you, he called me yesterday to say Happy New Year. Okay? I mean, these guys, through the years, I stay in touch. Bucky Dent is my brother. Bucky Dent was my roommate. Okay. George Steinbrenner, after Bucky Dent became the matinee idol and hit the home run and everything else and was getting all the commercials and had the big poster that all the girls were getting all excited because they had his poster on their ceilings, etc., what have you. Okay. Steinbrenner said, spring training of 79, I'll never forget it. He says, I got a special assignment for you. I said, what is it? And he says, you're going to room with Bucky Dent. I said, why? I don't want any orgies going on or anything like that. I said, but Bucky's not that way. He says, what the hell do you know? Just get in that room with him and report if anything strange is going on. And so I'm rooming with Bucky. And next thing you know, and this is a true story, Bucky will tell you, I'll never forget one time his priest, Father Joe Costanza, his priest, okay, comes in and look it up. You can look it up. You got Bucky Dent priest. Okay. Father Joe comes into town. And so Bucky says, I'm going to have dinner tonight with Father Joe. You want to go? I didn't want to sit no dinner with a priest. You understand? So I said, no, I'm hanging here. He says, all right, I'll see you later. He goes to have dinner with Father Joe. The phone rings. And so then I answer it and it's the boss. Hey, what's going on? How's everything? And so I said, everything's great. I'm having a great time. And he goes, I'm not paying you to have a great time. Where's Dent? And I said, Bucky went out. I knew it. Who's he with? I said, he's with his priest. And he goes, yeah. And I'm with his nuns. I knew I couldn't depend on you. And he hung up on me.
That's great.
Hey,
Can't make that up.
You know, you can't make up all this stuff that all your things. And like we talked about, like Mercer and things like that, and the rivalries with Boston and things like that. I think that, you know, some of our listeners, I want to show them a real true baseball fight from '76, and then I do want to get into the Bobby Mercer with the Dermot Munson game. So if you could play number 8 and number 4, and then we'll have Ray comment on these two events.
In the opposite field on a base hit. Here comes the runner. Here comes the throw. And let's see. He holds on to it. Does he hold on to it? And they have a fight. Here they go. And miss. And the bench is empty. And Carlton Fisk. And Bill Lee is hurt. Bill Lee is lying on the first base line, and he is hurt. A couple of the Yankee ball players jumped on him. Rick Burleson and a couple of others came over to try to pull him off, but he went down, and he is up now, holding his arm or something. Now going over to a couple of the Yankees, and there they go again. Mickey Rivers right in the middle of it. Mickey Rivers is the guy that's trying to hit everybody with a sucker punch. He's not getting anything. He's just running around behind everybody trying to hit him in the back of the head. I see Shambliss in there. I saw Velez in here. Enrico is going berserk now. Things have gotten out of hand here at Yankee Stadium. And Bill Lee is really hurt. And the crowd, they'll get there, too. They'll get there, too. He did drive it down the line, and it's fair. It is gone. I said he was due to break out of it earlier in the game. He got his pitch from the middle inside. And so we have a ball game. This is the man who broke down this morning in the middle
of his eulogy at Thurman Munson's funeral services. A close friend of Thurman Munson's from his earlier days as a Yankee.
The two-strike pitch coming to Mercer. Ball is hit down the left side. It's a fair ball going to the corner. Randolph turns at third. He comes to score. The Yankees win 5-4.
And so the New York Yankees, still the world champions, in an absolutely thrilling game. Look at them out there on a day when they buried their team captain and leader, who tragically died at the age of 32 last Thursday afternoon at the Canton-Akron Regional Airport. And the hero, Bobby Mercer, one of two eulogists for the Yankees today in Canton. The man who broke up, who couldn't go on. Munson, his leader, his friend, the man who meant so much to Bobby Mercer in the formulation of his own career. And it's almost symbolic, without, as I said earlier, being maudlin. They won this game.
First video first, Ray, the Yankee-Red Sox rivalry. Got to talk about it. Is it as intense in the dugout? I think you were there at that game. You've been there a lot over the years. A lot of the years they're both been good. Some years not so much. But we as fans, do we make more of it than it is, or is it that intense?
It depends on the year. It depends on the team. You know, some years more than others. Some years there are other teams that are more intense than the Red Sox, you know.
Right.
The Yankees, Kansas City was pretty tight, you know. So, but that year, those years, you know, the Yankees, Red Sox were, you know, that was tough. And Greg Nettles, man.
He's one tough dude.
You know, Greg Nettles is one tough hombre, and he's the one that they gave Bill Lee the whipping.
Yeah.
You know, and then it was so, what do you call it? The following day, Billy Martin brought in a fish, and he had me take it into the visitors' locker room and stick it in Bill Lee's shoe. You know what I'm saying? So.
Right.
And I won't tell you what let me just leave it alone.
Yeah.
But that, you know, that's what happened.
That's great. We have a couple people backstage you should probably bring on who can come kind of relate a little bit. And I don't know if Jill wants to come on. We have Jill Martin backstage. If Jill wants to come on, we'd love to have her.
Where is Jill?
There she is.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. There she is.
All right.
Thanks, Jill.
Hi, Jill.
Hi, you guys. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year
to you.
Yeah. Hey, how you doing, Ray? What a career you've had. My gosh. What a journey.
I love Jill because she was with the man when he needed her most. And she knows why I get emotional about him. She understands because she is one of the very, very few that really knew his heart. And that's why, you know, that's why I love Jill. I love the aspect that she's here with us. And anytime Jill is around, I get excited because, you know, listen, she was the last person to be able to say, I love you, Billy Martin. You know?
Hey, Ray, we have a couple you have so many friends and family wanted to come on the show, but we have Mike Dempsey, we have Todd Mercer. So
wow, Todd,
come on and say hello to Ray and give us some stories.
Ray, how are you?
Todd,
Happy New Year.
Todd was one of the kids. Todd was my favorite of all the kids that was in the locker room. You know, we had Barry Bonds, we had Ken Griffey Jr., Robbie Alomar, Sandy Alomar. We had a lot of kids through the years, but Todd was number one. He was my heart, you know. And
hey, Ray, I messaged Todd the other night on Instagram, and I said, "Thank God Ray Negron was not my babysitter. No offense to you, I love you." Hey, Todd, show him that Instagram. I had to say that. So, just saying. I love you, bro. Todd's
dad was one of the greatest men ever. Just beautiful heart, beautiful soul. Just, hey, only Bobby Mercer could have took over for Mickey Mantle. Okay, Mickey Mantle was everybody's hero in the Brooklyn, the Bronx, etc. That was everybody's hero. When Mantle retired, man, the city was hurt. And it took a guy that was in the army that was coming back. He was away in the army for 2 years, and he was coming back, and he was signed by Tom Greenway, the same guy that signed Mickey Mantle. So automatically, all the Puerto Ricans went nuts because we had our replacement to be there for the Mick, and that was Bobby Mercer. And I told you that story. I mean, my very, very first day, and Bobby Mercer says to me, run out to the road, run on the field with us. Okay, he made me take the stool down the right field line, come back, and when Eddie Layton started playing, Here Come the Yankees, he said, let's go. And that's how my first day. Somebody actually has that footage of that, so.
Really?
Hey, Ray, you mentioned when, during Munson and that tragedy, and then when Bobby had that great game and when he hit the home run and you were in the dugout, what did he say when he came into the dugout when he hit that home run?
Again, Bobby Mercer, man, he was so humble. He hits the home run, and as he's coming into the dugout, like Reggie Jackson is reaching out, and Bobby goes, hey, that was like a Reggie Jackson shot. You know what I'm saying? I mean,
yeah.
Who else would say that?
Right.
And here's another thing about Bobby Mercer. He gets traded, right? And that was tough. So anyway, we get Bobby back. And Bobby was my hero, man. So Bobby comes back. I barely talked to him for those 2 years that he was gone. And when I walked in, I couldn't wait. I run into the locker room, and Pete Sheehy says, Bobby Mercer is in the trainer's room. Go see him. And so when I go to the trainer's room, he was getting rubbed. And so he says to me, hey, get over here. And so I go over, and I'm so happy. And he says, oh, I heard you got another hero now. And I heard Reggie's your guy. And I said, Reggie's my guy. I said, but all of you are my guy. You know that, Bobby. You know I love you. That was Bobby Mercer, man. Like nobody's business.
Jill and Todd, I mean, random interrupt, but I mean, we've fortunately had Jill and Todd on our show, and they both know how Gil and I we idolized, we worshipped Bobby Mercer, and then later Billy Martin, and I would like maybe this Jill and Todd to talk about. I mean, it's one thing for us fans, guys like Gil and I, to feel that way. How do you feel about one of their contemporaries, guys who shared the dugout, the locker room? When you hear a guy like Ray talk about Billy and Bobby like that, it must just give you chills, I would imagine.
Go ahead, Jill.
Yeah, Jill, if you go.
Hi, Todd. How are you?
I'm great. Good to see you.
And give Mom a hug.
I will.
It brings back a lot of memories. I came after that era, so I got to hear all the wonderful stories and and hear and watch Ray Negron grow up a little bit, and it was. And it was an unbelievable time. What did you say earlier, Ray, when you were backstage, that it was
a glorious time.
It was a glorious time. I mean, and I thought, God, that really describes it. And thank you for bringing up Father Joe. What an incredible human being he was. And we all loved him. And We need to give a shout out to a lot of people. We lost Joni Ford here this last week. We're going to bury Arlene Howard here in a couple of days. It's just what an era of time that we all grew up in. And unfortunately, I met these ladies because of our misfortune in our lives. But what I gained from that was just such an incredible experience. I was certainly the younger one of the group. And so they just kind of took me underneath their wing and showed me the way, the Yankee way. And we had a wonderful time. And Ray, you were so much a part of it.
Well, I'm glad that you took care of our guy.
Yeah, I tell you, meeting Ray all these years ago and becoming friendly with Jill and Mike and Todd Mercer, and how you guys that represent the Yankees is just always with such class, dignity. I mean, it's so nice to go to the events and you talk to you guys, and you guys are so sincere. It's so it's like a thrill for us because I grew up in Brooklyn. And I idolize these guys, and that we're talking about them and speaking to them. It's almost like a dream come true for us. Me and Dave, I mean, we talked about when Mercer got traded to San Francisco and how we were devastated. We were 11 years old, and it just wasn't right. Bobby in a Giant uniform. The Cub uniform was a little bit better, but it was not still Todd. It wasn't good. The pinstripes was where he belonged, and Bobby was so loved by the fans. And you remember in the 81 World Series, he got a huge ovation. It's because the people loved him. He was our guy. I mean, like in the 80s, I guess the fans had Mattingly. Bobby was our guy in the early 70s. And then Derman came and Nettles and all that and all those guys. But Bobby was what we had, and with Roy White, too, I would say, and Sparky and Mel Stoudemire. We had some great teams. But, like I said, meeting you guys and how you guys represent the Yankees, Yankees are, it's just class all the way. And and it's a thrill for me. I know Dave could talk about, it's like, I'm a kid from Brooklyn. I grew up in an Italian neighborhood, and I'm talking to, Todd Mercer. It's like, yeah, this can't be true. I mean, this is like it's like a fantasy for me. And it's unbelievable that it's, I can't tell you how great it is. And Ray, you also got to mention before I get in trouble, you got to talk about your relationship with Disco Dom Scala, or else, once Dom gets mad at me, that's it. He's going to cut me out. So maybe say a couple things about Disco Dom when you get a chance.
No, Dom Scala was a big part of us. He came in '78, and I have one scenario with Dom, and he knows what it is. And Gil, we've talked about this in front of you because it was the time that I wasn't there, and Dom Scala was supposed to be hanging around Billy. And Billy got into that fight with what's his name?
Whitson.
Ed Whitson. He got into the fight with Whitson, and it's just it's just just something that to this day I still get. I don't know how I would react in front of Whitson. Okay, Gil knows how I am from the standpoint of my temperament per se, and it's just. And I don't hold grudges, but the thing with Whitson always had just hit me bad. But anyway, let's move on.
Okay. Hey Todd, how was he as a babysitter? Let's hear some good stories.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, I go back. I was, I don't know, maybe 10 years old at the time. Kind of when I started, kind of knowing Ray, and just the fact for me, it's just being, so many years removed from that. It's amazing. He's been there for the 50 plus years with the Yankees. But, my memories are early on when I was a kid, and, Ray being in the clubhouse and getting to hang out in the clubhouse. And, just the fact, my dad's been gone quite a number of years now. And I just feel very fortunate that Ray has the connection and to my dad, and he shares stories with me, and I have the same connection with Ray going back to when I was a kid. So just feel very fortunate that that I have this special relationship with Ray, as does everybody on the call here, to have this special relationship with him. And we text a lot. He's a busy guy, he's on Instagram. I can't hardly keep up with him, but we at least get to text every now and again and talk occasionally. And he's the best. He's my link to that very early time, and just being able to recall stories and hear stories and talk about the old days, and just to call him a friend all these years later is phenomenal. So, and I got my own Billy stories too, by the way. I love Billy as a manager as a kid, being able to, I remember, again, you're 10 or 11 or 12 and you kind of remember certain things. And I remember him giving me a big candy bar and giving me a bunch of chocolate chip cookies and things like that are exciting to a 10 and
What
11-year-old.
about playing bumper pool when he got kicked
Bumper
out?
pool. That's true. Bumper pool as well. Billy was
I heard
great.
all those stories.
Yeah, Billy was great. So, but yeah, Ray just means the world to me. So I was thrilled to kind of listen, and I could have just sat there and listened to stories, right? I mean, they're so good, but
I want Todd. I want for the people that are out there watching this, and I've gotten into certain arguments with some people, and I want you as a person that was a child at that time, please tell the people how Billy Martin was with the kids.
He was great with me. I mean, I have nothing but great memories, right? And I got to see a lot. I mean, it's funny. There's just so many stories that I've never shared or never really talked about, but just, kind of being a, fly on the wall in there, we kind of roamed around, right? I mean, it all depended on sort of how the team was doing. And if Mr. Steinbrenner was around, a lot of times we weren't allowed to be inside, but, we were around a ton. And I saw a lot of neat things, but Billy was great, always great to me, and always great to the other kids, that I recall. So nothing but good memories.
That's great. Well, let's turn into
let me just say one more thing. 1977, we were in Kansas City, and we were getting ready to go into the All-Star break, and so George Steinbrenner decided to give all the players a little all-star bonus. So every player got $250, okay? Which in 1977, that was a nice piece of change, all right? And so Billy goes, did you give Ray Negron $250? He said to the traveling secretary. And the traveling secretary says, I wasn't told to. And so Billy says, well, you're going to give him some money right now. And he said, but Billy, I don't have it. He says, you got the team checks. Give him a check. You know what I'm saying? And that was Billy. That's how he looked out. He always looked out. That was the greatness of the man. And the thing about it, a thing about Billy, the other thing I want to add, because there's a bad rumor out there that was started by Ken Griffey Jr. And it upsets me because I've had this conversation with Kenny, and I like Kenny. I like Kenny a lot. Okay. And I liked his father a lot. But one time there was a situation where Ken Jr. was asked to leave the dugout by the boss. And Billy had to take the heat for that. And so in turn, it became a race thing. All right. It became a race thing. And it wasn't that at all. Okay. And it just upsets me when people talk out of their butts on things they have no idea of who this man was. Because Billy Martin, I mean, my favorite Billy Martin picture is Billy surrounded by 5 black kids. Jill, did you ever see that picture?
I did. You showed it to me.
Okay. I mean, that was impromptu. This was during the era where we didn't have cameras and phones with cameras and all that. That was just an impromptu moment, whereas Billy was there with these kids. And it happened all the time. And Billy would give you the last money in his pocket. That's just the way he was. That's just the way he was.
So glad you mentioned that, Ray. That's big.
We got to get Billy in the Hall of Fame and Dermot in the Hall of Fame. And Bobby, we got to get his plaque. I told Todd I was going to break in and just I'm just going to nail it on the wall. I'm going to break into the Monument Park and do it. That's all. I know what to say.
Hey, Gil, one comment before we got to leave in about 30 seconds, but because Ray's too humble to mention it, but to mention the Hall of Fames, and you mentioned a few of the Hall of Fames that Ray is in. And people should know Ray's in these Hall of Fames, not because he has been with the Yankees for 50 years, but of all the charitable and the community work that he's been done over these number of decades. The other thing he's too humble to mention. I've seen comments when he's downplayed his ball playing. Ray was a second-round draft pick. People should realize he was a second-round draft pick of the Pittsburgh Pirates. So the guy could play as well. He wasn't the guy who's just stumbled upon this job. This guy could play. He's too humble to mention that, so we will. But anyway, I know we're running out of time.
Right, he was roommates with Willie Randolph. They have a relationship for 50 years with Willie Randolph. So Ray has long relationships with a lot of people, and I just want to thank everyone for coming on the show today. I wish we could talk we'll do another hour, Ray, with all your Hollywood connections, all your things.
These are my Hollywood connection right here. Look at the beautiful Jill Martin and Todd and Dempsey. Come on, man.
Yeah, I want to know what you're going to do next. That could be the next hour.
I know.
We got to do a part two. We got to find a part two.
Hey, healthy and happy New Year to all of you. Thank you for sharing in our show, and have a great night. And thanks, Ray. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Bill, I love you, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
God, you're my man.
Love you, Ray. See you, buddy.
And Jack, close with number one if we still have it. We'll see a young Ray Negron in the dugout. If we still have number one in a second.
Now listen to the ovation for Reggie Jackson as he comes up to the plate.
Reggie Jackson has seen 2 pitches in the strike zone tonight, 2, and he's hit them both in the seats.
Goodbye. Goodbye. Oh, what a blow. What a way to top it off. Forget about who the most valuable player is in the World Series. How this man has responded to pressure. Oh, what a beam on his face. How can you blame him? He's answered the whole world.
Reggie Jackson's last at-bat, probably in the 1977 series.
What a colossal blow.
And that was a monster in itself. 475 feet, probably. Look at that. Look at Torres. You don't think they know it? Feel it in there?
What are they all thinking now? After all the furor, after all the hassling, it came down to this. A whole long season. Out comes Reggie.